Hello everyone, Lord Titus here, and we're just having a bit of a detour from the normal setup because I want to talk about a slightly different sort of army. So what we have here is a Poxmakers of Nurgle army, because I've done most of the truly powerful armies in the game, and I just wanted to look at some of the slightly more niche, interesting side armies instead. So this is, in my opinion, sort of the most efficient and effective army that you can kind of make with Poxmakers of Nurgle. We have Kugath, Plague Father, and he's been fully leveled up, so he's level 50. He's equipped with his unique weapon, Trickster's Helm for ward save, Talisman of Preservation for ward save, Forbidden Rod. I didn't really find any casting item that works particularly well for Kugath, but Forbidden Rod gives that spell resistance, which can be quite useful, and the Iron Curse icon. This is really helpful just because Kugath is obviously just enormous, so he takes a lot of shooting in at him, and while he is actually pretty durable against it with just boatloads of HP, good armour, and nice resistances, he's just that extra bit of missile resistance is very helpful and actually makes him borderline immune to non-magical shooting, which fortunately all of these guys have. Then we have a Plague Ridden. This has loads and loads of abilities as well. Most important ones are Glittering Scales, and he also has, wherever we are, so he also has the Blade of Nurgle, which has Rancid Visitation, Staff of Nurgle, which has Rancid Visitations as a bound spell, which is very helpful. Because the biggest thing that Nurgle normally struggles with is taking out individual characters. That is the entire reason why this Beast of Nurgle is here. Beast of Nurgle is there for trying to eliminate particular characters, which it can do reasonably well. It's not amazing at it, but it can do a reasonable job. It's got decent weapon strength, decent melee attack and melee defense, and if you're attacking an enemy within a blob, it's quite capable of fighting enemy units one-on-one. Regeneration is very nice. And then, as you can see, the entire rest of it is Nurglings. Nurglings are fantastic because they just get buffed to the stratosphere by Kugath. So, 37 melee defense, 38 melee attack, very reasonable combat stats, good leadership, very important. It's interesting playing with these guys on Mortal Empires because the leadership is actually their biggest issue normally. Especially in the early game when trying to fight against vampires, where their leadership just plummets the second battle is joined. But the thing about Nurglings, and this is something that you might not realise, is that they are the toughest beasts in all of existence when Kugath is leading the army. And this is because of several things. Firstly, they have, at this rank, very nice missile resistance. 15% missile resistance, and then depending upon who you're fighting, thanks to the Nurgle tech tree, they can go higher. So they'll be up to 22% missile resistance against Tzeentch, and 25% missile resistance against Grand Cathay, which is very nice. Spell resistance, this is thanks to Kugath having Kairos Fateweaver's trait. In Mortal Empires you can buff this up even further by getting Kemler's trait as well, but this is a Realms of Chaos campaign, so we don't have that at the moment. And then we have 46% physical resistance. This is a combination of base 20% physical resistance from having good winds of magic, plus the 6% from the red line, and then you add on Nurgle's Rot as well. Now Nurgle's Rot you can get as either of the Nurgle factions. It is really good, easily the best plague that they have, because extra 20% physical resistance is amazing against most factions, and Summoned from Beyond, very helpful for a faction that has just got terrible mobility. In addition, Banner of Eternal Flame on Kugath, just to give everyone extra weapon strength and flaming attacks. Not hugely relevant in this bit in Realms of Chaos. Funnily enough, it's actually probably the best against other Nurgle factions, just because it can shut down their healing. But anyway, good thing to have. Extra weapon strength is always helpful. And we are up against a decent amount of Kislev. and it says Pyrrhic victory. It's not going to be a Pyrrhic victory. It's going to be a lot better than that. But the reason that it says Pyrrhic victory is because we, on the face of it, have a really bad matchup here. They've got a lot of things that, in theory, should be able to shred us absolutely fine. They're not going to, though, and we will see in a moment exactly why that is. So, we're going to manually fight this battle. So, the reason why it says that we are at such a disadvantage is because they have a lot of shooting with a lot of ammunition, and we're wearing t-shirts basically. We've got good resistances, but the fact that we don't have any armour just means that all of these Kossars are just as effective as sort of heavy shooting with elite units. The only thing that really makes a difference is whether the shooting is magical or not. So we are going to employ the greatest defense mechanism in the entire game in the form of trees. Yes, boatloads of trees will save our life here. Kugath and these guys do not have Vanguard, so they have to start in the front, and they're all nicely grouped up already, so we will do that. We love to blob as Nurgle. Blobs are your friend, blobs are what win this game. So we're going to blob over in the corner. We are demons, we are not going to be running away, and quite frankly, even though our stats are really quite, with Kugath and things, are actually quite good, our melee attack is not our strongest stat, and our speed is not our strongest stat, so the trees really make very little difference to our combat stats. But they are going to make a huge amount of difference when people try and shoot at us, which is by far the biggest concern. So we'll ungroup those, get those fixed. Right, so we start deployment and immediately beeline everyone back over here. Now the difference here is that because we are under attack, hopefully they will come at us. If we were attacking them, Kugath would have to throw some of his missiles at people to make them want to come at us first. But yeah, so we're just gonna get set up in here. I'm going to use the Chromatic Tome to get a bit of extra magic, and besides that, we're all just gonna pretty much keep going. So, giant blob of Nurglings. Now, why is the giant blob of Nurglings so good? It is because Kugath is the god king of auras. Kugath has the lovely aura, where is it in here? Nurgling Infestation, giving free healing to all Nurglings. In addition, thanks to Kugath's skill tree, they all have regeneration as well, so they're healing 0.3% of their HP per second. So really strong. Trees here, they're going to block out a whole load of the shooting, although with Kugath he has 40% physical resistance, 26% ward saves, and 20% missile resistance. So between all of those things, he has already got 86% resistance to all shooting coming in at him isn't magical, so he's going to be absolutely fine for a bit. Nurglings, they have 46% physical resistance and 15% missile resistance, so even these Nurglings have got over 60% resistance against non-magical shooting. Fire damage shooting also can have an effect, but we don't have that here. So, the Nurglings are literally just here to provide an anvil, so, while Kugath and the Beast of Nurgle and my magic, the Plague Risen or Kugath, provide the hammer. The Plague Risen is just going to spam the Chromatic Tome just to boost himself up power level wise. Rancid Visitations is a bound spell, just there to single out a particularly annoying enemies. So you could potentially do it on these guys if you wanted to, but I see no reason not to let them use up their ammunition. Locus of Fecundity, a bit of reasonably easy healing that doesn't require any winds of magic. And yeah, so they're just going to be waiting for their reinforcements to arrive before they come in and attack. Now, Kislev is an annoying faction to fight against because they just have so much shooting, and especially later on when they get things like Ice Guard, who are actually really effective at shooting as well. Fortunately, they don't have any of it here, but Little Grom is a bit of a problem. Little Grom artillery is the bane of this army. Cathay and the Empire don't. This is a dangerous army to take against them, just because they will use Fire Rain rockets or Hellstorm rocket batteries, and that will just melt your army. But even so, at the moment, Kugath's doing just fine. How much has he lost? So far, from all of their shooting, so that's all three of them have used up about a third to a half of their ammunition. Kugath has lost 74 HP, and that's a combination of his inherent resistances and just the trees blocking loads of the shots, because it's just so dense here and they're so far back, they're just not going to hit very accurately. Okay, so we've got the horde gathering over there. Let's just fast forward a little bit. The big problem with this army is that you really don't have many tools to actually kind of counter-attack enemy units. One area in which you can kind of improve this army is if you ditch the Beast of Nurgle and instead get an Exalted Hero, which came with the Champions of Chaos DLC, but I didn't want to do this for I didn't want to do this on the assumption that everyone has Champions of Chaos, so I just wanted to do this, just base game. I still think this is a perfectly good army. You really don't need the Exalted Hero to make this army work. It's a very good army. It's just possibly not quite as perfected as it could be if you do have Champions of Chaos. So, yeah, so the problem with this army is that you really don't have a huge number of options when it comes to all this shooting other than just kind of sitting there and taking it. You've got to just deal with the shooting that comes in, and there's no real way around it. You've just got to deal with it. Unfortunately, if you have the use of trees, they're very, very good at dealing with it. You can just sit there, tank it. When enemies get close and start properly attacking, you can start using your heal spells and abilities, but it's just not necessary at the moment. Everyone getting into position. This is one of those things about the AI in this game. It does love just getting its troops lined up. That's fine by me. We'll just keep getting some more power reserves. That's fine. So Chromatic Tome, excellent, excellent. Bound ability, really, really strong, especially in this game where you've got just piddly with some magic reserves. Chromatic Tome is just outstanding. Does hurt you, but fortunately with Nurgle and with Zeech, you basically have the healing of either barriers or just flat out healing. So it should be able to counterbalance. You should be able to counterbalance effects without it being too much of an issue. But plus, hurting yourself actually fills up this chain, which is always fun. So yeah, so there's all of the war sleds, used up all their ammunition to pretty much no effect. A handful of casualties across the army. Not anything that's can't be immediately healed at the end of the battle. So yeah, it'll be fine. There we go, they're coming at me at long last. So, plan with this. Sit at the back of the trees, let the melee units come in. The thing that's most important with Nurgle is you want to take Kugath and you want to just rush Pestilential Decay. With his Nurglings, he can do a good amount of damage in a grind out fight. But what you can't do with his Nurglings is you can't do that in the trees, because the trees will block Kugath's shooting as well. So you really want to rush Pestilential Decay. It's at the tail end of his combat tree, so you need to just rush to that and then get Pestilential Decay. Let's use that and then heal everyone a little bit. Let's put them all into a group. So let's see, how much do they do? 30 gold value with all of their ammunition. So yeah, not really too much of an issue. Little Grom is more annoying, but still quite manageable. There's not really too many issues with Little Grom. But all of this shooting, if we were fighting this on an open field, this would be a big problem. All of these missile troops coming in. Big issues, so much shooting, it would be horrible. But because we're in the trees, vast majority of it is going to get stopped in its tracks. Anything that doesn't get stopped can just be healed without too many issues. And the joy is, because they're all reaching the same range, what you can do is wait for them all to gather together, because they're all coming in one big line, basically. And then a lovely blight boil right in the centre there. Just going to be the business. So just get that there. There we go. How much is that? 3,000 value in a single attack. So yeah, very, 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 very good, useful abilities. Blight boil again with Kugath. And this is where the Locus of Fecundity coming in really, really helpful, because it just means that we don't need to use the... Yeah, we don't need to use magic to heal at the moment. We can just use it to murderize Kislevites. Yeah. So 122 kills, 4,000 value, 496 kills, lots of value. And so magic bombardment would be the biggest problem if I didn't have that magic resistance on the entire army. Even so, easily the most damaging thing so far. But there's, again, no real way of shutting it down. This is the big problem with Nurgle. You are basically forced to just take the damage, take the licks, and keep on kicking. But as you can see, Kugath can do boatloads of damage up close and personal just by virtue of his aura of decay. So there we go. Blight Boil did lots of work. Kugath got massive value. And just to finish it all off, let's put a giant heal on myself. And Rancid Visitations on him. He's out, but he took a lot of damage. And there we go. So, Pyrrhic victory, which resulted in huge casualties, ultimately comes down to this. Now, as you can see, I was approaching my heal cap with my wizard, mostly because I'm hurting myself with a chromatic tome. Kugath, however, was absolutely fine. Both of these guys got massive value. This is the thing with the Nurglings, though. They got almost no damage between them. Almost everything was just on your characters, which is fine. But if your characters go down due to a bad decision, you're in a lot of trouble afterwards. But that's fine. That's fine, though. Because, and we'll discuss this when the end turn is over. So, more infections, always good.
Behold.
Okay, so Kugath, what makes this army so great that I'm going on about it, even though it's a very basic starting army? Well, firstly, look at that price. 1,668. Kugath is 581. My character is 233. The Beast of Nurgle is 186. So, between all of those, so those two are 800 together. With this one, it's 1,000. So all of these Nurgling units combined are 668. That's thanks to Kugath's trait. So yeah, that's thanks to that's thanks to the ancillary here, Bruntos Bowel Purge, which you'll get very easily because you're going to have masses of Nurglings at the start of the game, and his skill tree. So we have Pestilent Abundance, reduced upkeep, reduced recruitment cost, and regeneration for Nurglings. Excellent. Plague Shield, extra melee defense for Nurglings, +5. It's really, 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 really strong. Nauseating Mutations, bonus speed, bonus physical resistance for Beasts of Nurgle and Nurglings. Again, excellent. And finally, Virulent Contagion, bonus melee attack, bonus speed, and bonus missile resistance for Nurglings. Excellent. Again, as mentioned earlier, we're just going to rush along here to get Pestilent Decay. If you wanted to, you could put points into Blessed by Blight rather than Lightning Strike. I personally like having Lightning Strike as a backup, just in case. Kugath is one of those interesting ones. He has so many skills that it's really hard, even with 50 skill points, to get enough in. So there are several that I would genuinely like that I just can't afford with the skill points. So there are Champions of Decay, will definitely quite like that one. Giggling Grenades would be good. Plague Father's Oration would be good. 8 Tzeentch is irrelevant. I wiped out the Tzeentch faction literally immediately in this game. But yeah, so that's his setup. Again, his equipment, straightforward enough. Ironcurse Icon for physical resistance, all the various bits and bobs. Quests complete, that's all fine. For him, we have Locus of Fecundity. Locus of Fecundity, if you are just running with a Plague Ridden, if you're running with a Plague Ridden and an Exalted Hero, take the Locus of Contagion instead. It's a fantastic blob melter. And then most of his points, magic first, melee second. You really don't want him in melee too much. You want him as a secondary caster. But yeah, that's the setup. If you're going against any faction that has shooting, do not put him on a palanquin. He will die. It will just get shot to pieces. The extra armor and HP is not worth it compared to how much easier a target he is. Equipment wise, Staff of Nurgle for Rancid Visitations, Glittering Scales to make everyone else less effective, Chromatic Tome to boost his magic. And there we go, a cheap, really easy to make, available very early on in the game army. Would strongly recommend anyone playing Poxmakers of Nurgle. Yep, anyone playing Poxmakers of Nurgle, take this. To turn 92, I've got quite a significant empire already. I've not really been involved in the soul race, and yeah, that's what you want to get. Again, if you trait farm for him, he gets even better, but he's perfectly good as he is. So that's it from me. Yeah, and I will see you next time.